You recognized it, that's a 206, but be careful, it's not just any 206. This is a 206 RC, it's actually my 206 RC, I'm really proud of it. By the way, if you want to follow the progress, why I bought this car and what I'm going to do with it, don't hesitate, there's a video just below in the description and at the top right. If you like 206 RCs, you're going to love this video and this series of videos. But anyway, basically the 206 RC is very simple, it's a very responsive front end, a 2-liter 16-valve engine reworked by Lotus that still puts out 177 horsepower. Internally, we call it the EW10J4S. Really, it's a small, super agile car with good acceleration that runs very well and has really good handling. Honestly, I think it's probably the best front-wheel drive car of its time. And this is a 206, but backwards. No. Joke aside, it would be really reductive to sum up this beautiful little car like that. This car is a PGO Speedster 2. It's a French car produced in a very limited series which shares a lot of parts with cars that you probably know extremely well. Today, I'm lucky to show you this rare little car on our roads thanks to Loris from Maui Automobiles in Bourg-les-Valences. Maui needs no introduction. The Mustang comes from them, the E-Class comes from them, and the PGO comes from them. What? Wait, Anthony, did you buy a PGO? No, I said, they're lending it to me. But I'm saying that maybe by the end of this shoot, I'll want to buy a PGO. That's very likely. So if you're interested in this car, well, first, watch the video because it's always cool. You're going to learn a lot of things with me. But just so you know, this car is for sale at Maui's. I'm telling you straight up, he put it up for sale at 29,980 euros, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
But no, it's too late. By the time this video comes out, the car is already sold. Anthony can say goodbye to his professional car sales commission.
So in the video, of course, I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you a bit about how it feels on the road because I'm super curious. And I'll also tell you a little about the history of PGO and where things stand today. But in any case, I really invite you to watch this video until the end because personally, I learned things that blew me away and I honestly think you'll be blown away too. When I say that this is 206, it's not wrong at all. I just got in the car, this feeling of freedom. Wow, damn, but seriously, you really shouldn't roll over. I'm telling you straight, don't roll over. Anyway, the car I'm in right now is a PGO Speedster 2. And the 2 really matters because actually this car is from 2006, but the story of PGO started way before that. It's obviously not the fastest car I've ever driven in my life, but it puts a big smile on your face. Anyway, originally PGO was started by 2 brothers, Gilles and Olivier Prévost. That's it, that's PGO. PGO, if you didn't know, is their name. In 1980, they founded their car company, and at that time, they made what are called kit cars. So, in the 50s and 60s, it's no secret, there were a lot of incredible automotive legends. And to name just 2, let's say the AC Cobra and the Porsche 300. These cars had an exceptional look and were very expensive, even in the 80s when people were already speculating on them and they were worth a fortune. So the story of kit cars is really simple. You take cars that already exist and then you make a replica using parts that you can get easily and quickly. Basically, if I chose the example of the 356 and the AC Cobra, it's for a good reason. Those were PGO's 2 flagship models. At that time, it was really good old-fashioned craftsmanship. That means you take this part, you take that part, you put them together, and it makes something that works more or less. It's perfect. And honestly, it might even look like some of the stuff you see on YouTube these days. So yeah, like I said, PGO reproduces the Porsche 356 Speedster, and they simply call it the PGO Speedster. The recipe at that time was honestly super simple. Like I told you, it's a Beetle chassis and a fiberglass body that looks a lot like, if not exactly like, the Porsche 356. And honestly, it looks so much like the Porsche 356 that they don't even bother. They just buy Porsche 356 windshields from Porsche and put them on their car. And basically for the PGO Cobra, it was even easier because they used a base that already existed at Pilgrim Cars, which was a pretty common English replica brand at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, these guys made super simple ladder chassis that could accommodate pretty much any running gear or any engine in this case. Basically, PGO at that time used existing running gear from Ford, especially from the Granada and later the Sierra, which were very easy to find. And then, for the Cobra's engine, it was out of the question to put in a Beetle 4-cylinder. They went straight for a V8, but a V8 that was easy to find here. I'm referring to the 3.5-liter from Rover, used in Range Rovers and the first Defenders, which, as I mentioned in my last video, weren't originally called Defenders. Anyway, it was a robust engine that sounded great and fit perfectly in a Cobra replica. So once the chassis were ready, all that was left was the fiberglass body, and that part was 100% PGO, and honestly, they did an amazing job. Fiberglass is, in my opinion, a technology that's getting a bit lost, but it's really so forgiving. Even a guy like me could do just about anything with it. By the way, it gives me a few ideas for future YouTube videos. Anyway, even though PGO makes very few cars, the Speedster actually sells really well. And they've sold 250 units in 20 years. That might not seem like much, but honestly, for a tiny company based in Gard in the 80s, that's not so bad. Until 1998, PGO mostly stayed on their usual path. The door checks are from the 206, that's why they make that sound, it's normal. They kind of stick to that path, they make replicas, they don't really question it too much, and honestly it's cool, they really look like 356s and Cobras, that's not what we're dealing with here at all. Except in 1998, it's kind of a turning point because they're approached by two men. Their names are Laurent Spiek, I'm really not good with these names, and Olivier Baudouin. I really butchered that one too, sorry. And they really see it as a kind of future opportunity. We can do more, we can do better, and so PGO agrees to get help in exchange for money. Yes, I forgot about those things, yes. So, between 1998 and 2000, the brand continues to produce its Speedsters, but they start thinking a little bit about the future. The Speedster 2, it makes sense. Paris Motor Show, late 2000 Speedster 2 is presented, so the money put in by the investors wasn't for nothing. The car has been slightly redesigned. It's still based on the 356. It's more of a tribute than a true replica, but visually it works. The car has unique rear lights, a much more neo-retro design, and above all, technically it goes much further than the Beetle chassis. Here, we're looking at a tubular chassis developed entirely in-house right there in their workshop. What do we call that? Their headquarters? Yeah, that's a cool term. It's in Saint-Christol-les-Alès in the Gard. It's also nearby. That's where PGO was created, and that's where they still are today in 2026. That's awesome. And then, for the rest, PGO decided to use PSA for its parts supply. It's pretty surprising, but I think it works well. So they use the parts available from PSA, especially for the running gear. Basically, we're talking about Peugeot running gear. We're basically talking about Peugeot brakes. Basically, it's a complete Peugeot running gear setup. As for the shock absorbers, yes, they're not entirely original, but they're still Peugeot. And for the heart of the car, I'm talking about the engine. They chose the flagship of the time from Peugeot, the 2-liter 16-valve engine from the 206. Why this one? Because it's the best, it's the most powerful, and honestly, it's the one that fits the philosophy of the Speedster the best. And by the way, for your enjoyment, guess what? I put this Peugeot Speedster 2 on a lift, Emilian and Mehdi's lift. Big hugs, guys. To see a little bit of what's hiding underneath, and honestly, it's super cool. So, let's start with the front. That's a 206 subframe. They removed the engine mount, so now we have a sway bar in the original sway bar mounts. But it's not a Peugeot sway bar, it's homemade, but it works. 206 control arm, 206 brakes, but that's not a 206 shock absorber. Maybe a Citroën or custom knuckle. The brakes are Peugeot, so likely a Citroën knuckle. I don't know what it's attached to. And the subframe, so it's mounted here like on a Peugeot, and here like on a Peugeot. We have hoses here. Why? We have a radiator. Damn, the water radiator is in the front. That means the scoop here is functional. Air comes in here and we must have, the water hoses go all the way to the back, to the engine. That's crazy. Everything else is welded square tubing. Oh, I think it's awesome to see this. Aluminum floor, I think. Renault Twingo fuel tank. That's so cool. And here, well, we have the famous 2-liter S16 EW10J4 on a 206 subframe. That's awesome, damn. So, the subframe has been heavily modified. Okay, actually, it's installed the other way around. Of course, there's a stabilizer bar in the back too, which is the same. Smaller diameter, but attached to the original mounts. So, they put bushings in the original Peugeot mounts. And as a result, you can do an alignment in the back, since actually there's no steering rack. We have a kind of steel tube here, welded, onto which they've screwed tie rods with ball joints. That way you can adjust toe in, toe out, and everything at the rear. That's awesome. 206 control arm. So we have 4 front control arms from a 206, and then everything else is welded onto a square tube frame. I'm a huge fan. I feel like I'm looking at a car, built by Benjamin Workshop in his garage. It's really funny. So yes, as I was telling you just before, for me, there is real consistency in having chosen this setup back in 2000. And by the way, even 26 years later, it's still reliable engineering. The PGO cars are still running and the 206 S16s are still running. You could do 400,000 kilometers in these without any problem. It's really great. By the way, something funny, the PGO windows aren't Porsche windows anymore. Same for the windshield, it's now PGO glass. It's silly but worth mentioning. Yeah, and as for the interior, as for the upholstery, I think there's real consistency between the exterior and the interior. Obviously, there are dozens of salvaged parts that come from the Peugeot parts bin, which makes sense. It's reliable, it's sturdy, it works. But everything related to the upholstery, leather, configuration, etc., that really works well. You can tell these are good quality materials. Of course, it's a hand-built car. You can't expect a Rolls-Royce or an Audi A8, you know? I mean, it's nothing like that. But anyway, you get it, I love it. We're really dealing with something consistent here. And a pretty funny thing with this steering wheel is that actually this is attached with Velcro. And underneath, there's a universal steering wheel that you can put on any car. I find that really funny. It means they've created their own identity using parts you can find elsewhere. And I think that's really great. By the way, let's play a little game. I'm going to show you the interior and show you what I found that comes from Peugeot. 206, 206, 206, 206, 206, 206, the door stopper. I'm pretty sure that's from a 206. The headlight height adjustment is definitely from a Peugeot. The interior rearview mirror looks like it's from a 206, but they installed it upside down. Click, awesome, window control 206, the seatbelts 206, here the dome lights, check it out, it's awesome 206. But when you're inside, you really feel like you're not in a Peugeot. The vibe is really great. Yeah, that's my tripod mount, don't worry about it. But the vibe inside is really great. And the startup sequence is pretty cool. You turn the key and press start. I'm in love with this car. That really hand-built feel is awesome. On the outside, you can also find the lock cylinder. And the third brake light, I think it's a 206cc light. And here, the side indicator, also from the Phase 1 206. And honestly, it's super consistent. Damn! Anyway, the Paris Motor Show. Yeah, I got a little lost. It's 2000 and this car is announced to the public. Everyone is amazed, which makes sense for the time since we're in the biodesign era. We have the Renault Megane one, we have the 206, we have the Ford Focus. Some pretty weird cars. And in the middle, we have this thing. It's slammed to the ground, it's wide, and it's French. Yeah, so people think it's really cool. But the press, I think they were a little bit like, we're not convinced by this thing. A small manufacturer that comes out of nowhere and says they're going to start making somewhat high-end cars. No, the press absolutely doesn't believe it. Even with PSA's partnership, the whole thing is more credible. From the announcement of the PGO Speedster 2 in 2000 at the Paris Motor Show, it took PGO 3 years to finalize this car. Between the tests, certifications, crash tests, and all the really annoying stuff, you'll have to wait until 2003 to sign the order form for your little Speedster. And honestly, it works. Because in 2003 alone, it's estimated that about 40 cars were ordered and produced at the PGO factory in Gard. Now, said like that, 40 cars might seem ridiculous. When you consider cars like the Clio had tens or hundreds of thousands made, this is a tiny company. They're building these at home in their own workshop, and honestly, it's not bad. Production is gradually ramping up. But the problem is, PGO didn't even have time to think things were going well before, in 2004, Porsche hit them with a lawsuit for counterfeiting the 356. It's a huge blow for the small French brand. Well, yeah, no wonder. You really don't want to get sued by one of the most powerful sports car brands in the world. So, Porsche demanded the production of the Speedster to stop, and the problem is, Porsche won. Yep, end of 2024. End of 2024.
Well done, Anthony. You managed to be only 20 years off on the date of the lawsuit between Porsche and PGO. Fortunately, the video is written out with text to remind you of the exact date. It's the end of 2004.
That's right. At the end of 2004, PGO had to stop producing the Speedster and also had to pay 50,000 euros in damages to Porsche, which, for one, doesn't change anything for Porsche. And secondly, it puts PGO in deep trouble. Completely. So of course the brand immediately appealed. But the problem is, in May 2025, they went into receivership. PGO, it's over. PGO is dead? And actually, what's really cool is that no, PGO didn't shut down at all. Why? Because actually, just a month before that court decision, some small investors flew in straight from Kuwait, arrived in Gard, and said, "We're not going to leave you in this mess. Your cars are too cool. We're going to help you." And that's how they bought 51% of PGO's shares in 2005. If PGO lost in court, it wasn't because they were wrong, but because they couldn't compete with Porsche. The Middle Eastern group said they wouldn't be overtaken by the Germans and would manage on their own, and it worked. Not even a month after the buyout, and just a few weeks after their defeat in court on appeal, they win it back.
Let the voiceover give a few details about this trial. Porsche sued PGO over 2 vehicles, the Speedster 2 and the Speedster 1. But the one that stayed in Porsche's sights after the first trial was the first generation, the one that was a true replica of the 356. Fortunately, at the time, It was already an old car, and Porsche wasn't able to back up their case with recent enough patents. That's why PGO won on appeal. Voiceover explains.
Ultimately, everything worked out for our beloved little French manufacturer, giving them fantastic publicity that sparked global conversation. A small French brand that goes up against Porsche in court and wins. That's pretty phenomenal. So from there, they can restart production of the Speedster. They get reimbursed the 50,000 euros in damages. And on top of that, they play another card by releasing the PGO 7, the facelift, or at least the upgraded, slightly more high-end version of the Speedster. All right. Honestly, the 7 is basically a Speedster with a few design tweaks. I like this one more. It has a stronger neo-retro vibe than the 7. The 7's cool, but I prefer this. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Except that, in the end, my opinion doesn't really matter. Why? Because the Speedster 2 and the 7 share the same production line, and the 7 sells extremely well, even much better than the Speedster. Why? I guess he found this one a bit too old-fashioned. The thing is, the 7 looks a lot more neo than retro. This one looks more retro than neo. Remember, business was so good in 2006 that they sold 60 vehicles? Which is no small feat for this tiny company from God. And actually, moving forward, they'll have to expand the factory and improve their production line a bit. That's my France. So yes, well, I know you're going to mention it in the comments. I feel the same way as you do. I think the setup is great, but the rims are a disaster. On the 7, which looks more modern, it's fine, but on a Speedster, I'm not a big fan. For me, it clashes way too much with the retro style of the car. If you added small rims, similar to the 356 style with nice widened steel wheels and a central hubcap, it would make a big difference, I think. And by the way, this yellow shade, if I'm not mistaken, comes directly from Porsche. Because yes, at that time, for me, it was kind of the golden age of PGO. They were selling well, they were in great shape, everything was going well. So much so that they started to move upmarket a bit. On the 7, you could choose from a multitude of colors, from a multitude of different interiors, and that's really cool, stylish. As I mentioned, that treatment is mostly for the 7, which is more luxurious and modern. This remains the entry-level model. And at that point in the story, the Kuwaitis, the guys from Kuwait, they're like, come on, we're going to open showrooms in our country. We're going to open showrooms in China. Now, it needs to grow. It's really flattering for PGO. Except that, unfortunately, we get to a point where Peugeot decides to stop offering the 2-liter 16-valve engine in its 206Y because they don't even have the 206 anymore. Peugeot, they're going to start changing their engine lineup, changing their strategy. They're moving to THP turbo engines. And PGO, I'm not sure they want that. What do we do? Says PGO. Well, it's easy. It's easy since Peugeot still makes the 2-liter 16-valve engine for them. That's awesome. Like, Peugeot no longer offers the 2-liter 16, but Peugeot makes the 2-liter 16 for PGO. That's great. So here we are in 2008 at the Paris Motor Show once again, and PGO presents the Emera to us. It's like a coupe based on the Speedster, based on the 7. And I think the look of the car is incredible. It kind of looks like a mix between a 356 and a shooting brake. It gives it a crazy look. I really think we French have talent, you know, but let us do things. It's worth it. Look at what we can do. Yeah, I changed spots. I was getting bothered a lot. And people really like the car. But overall, people don't think it's worth 29,000 euros. When you tell them the price, they're like, really? It's 2012. Up to now, PGO is doing very well. In 2012, anti-pollution standards became more complex, especially for the 2-liter 16-valve engine from 1999. That's not nothing. The thing is already 13 years old, and then the THP, after all, has been around for 6 years. We've got a kind of reliability that's been established. And then PGO doesn't ignore that. They switch to the THP, except they're not really switching to Peugeot's THP. They're switching to BMW's THP, which is used in the Mini Cooper S. 184 horsepower, 1.6-liter turbo, awesome. I think it's one of the best versions of the THP from that time. While Peugeot didn't have great reliability, Mini had already improved the reliability of a lot of small parts, a lot of small consumables, and so on. I can already see the comments coming from guys like, hey, why is he showing you a PGO? He's wearing a hoodie. He's a thug. I'm a thug and I'm going to steal your snack. And even if, at first glance, it might seem a bit surprising, I want to say that switching to the THP was one of the best things PGO could do. They're really entering the modern era. Manual gearbox, 6 speeds automatic gearbox, 6 speeds with paddle shifters. And then, without realizing it, the THP also means switching to turbo. Lots of torque at low revs, excellent acceleration, and despite everything, the sound is cool. Me, I love the THP. You're preaching to the choir. Hey, the THP is crap. Me, I love it. And overall, that means the car has really great performance for a small production car. Plus, a 7 back then did 0 to 100 in less than 6 seconds. 2012 is also the year of the facelift for the 7, so not this one, but for the 7 new front end, new interior, quite a few new versions, etc. It's still the most upscale car, so it's normal that it's pampered. We're still looking at an entry price for the 7 of almost 50,000 euros. The Speedster 2 still remains in the lineup since it's the entry-level model, but it still benefits from quite a few technological advances like the arrival of the THP as well. And then we still have the MRA, but the MRA really is the brand's high-end model with its fiber body that's more complex to manufacture. Yeah, it's the top of the line for the brand. We're in a bit of a must-see spot in the Drome. This is the entrance to the mountains. So the mountains you see in the background, that's the Vercors, especially the Limoux Pass. Right now, we're at the foot of the Limoux Pass. It seemed a waste to have a Speedster 2 and not take a spin. I'm not looking to drive fast or risk anything, but it costs 29,000 euros and I can't afford that. But I still thought it was cool to try it out. But before that, I'm going to tell you a bit about what happened at PGO between 2012 and now. Between 2012 and 2017, sales were honestly at their lowest. Basically, during those years, we're talking about roughly 20 sales per year, which really isn't much. We've definitely left the brand's golden age behind, and that's a real shame. In 2017, the brand's finances were at their lowest, and they were pretty much surviving only on transfers from their friends in Kuwait. It's tough. And so on June 29, 2017, the brand was once again declared finished, done, over, that's it. They weren't selling much and production costs kept rising. Remember, it's still made in France. And also there were huge disagreements between the French and the guys from Kuwait about the strategies to use to sell cars. What will save them is the complete buyout of the company. So the 49% that the Kuwaiti group didn't own, well, now they belong to Kuwait. So it's a 100% Kuwaiti brand now, but it's still based here. Basically, the strategy becomes completely different now. We're no longer a small French manufacturer, we're a luxury workshop. The clientele has to change, the clientele has to be different. Each car needs to bring in more money. At that time, it was quite difficult. The brand had to cut its workforce in half, obviously to reduce costs. And at the factory in Gard, they directly opened an after-sales service center and, most importantly, a restoration center that would allow PGO owners to come to the factory to have their PGO restored or simply redone. In truth, at that point, they were hardly selling any new cars and focused only on after-sales service and the customers they already had. They were selling nearly all new cars just to existing PGO customers. Then things got complicated. In 2022, they considered switching to electric cars due to stricter emission standards, but never did. Maybe that was for the best. Well, it's not all bad news either. In 2024, some new information came out. For manufacturers producing fewer than 1,000 cars per year, they no longer need to comply with active safety standards. Yeah, at that point, there are a lot of annoying things happening in the car industry, but basically, passive safety is okay for manufacturers making fewer than 1,000 cars per year, and it's not okay for those who make more. So of course, at the 2024 Paris Motor Show, once again, they tried to boost sales with a facelift of the Cevennes, and they even come out with a new model, the Sarab, the PGO Sarab, which is actually just a small prototype, a little racing roadster powered by a THP engine tuned to 200 horsepower, but the thing only weighs 600 kilograms. That's cool. I've never heard about it again after that, but it sounds cool on paper. So, since the brand's come back in 2024, and as I'm recording this in 2026, PGO seems to be surviving. They're still producing cars in dribs and drabs. Yes, you can still buy a brand new one today in 2026, and I think that's really awesome. And they still take pride in keeping that sort of image as a small, independent luxury automaker based in the south of France. I think that's actually super important for their image and their status. And they're starting to diversify a little bit. They organize road trips for owners everywhere. I noticed there's one in Morocco at the end of 2026, which is funny since I'll be there in 3 days. They also have a private one-make racing series for the Emera GT, a more radical Emera coupe with a limited slip differential and a THP engine tuned to 230 horsepower. It's held in Alès, their home. It's really great. With that, I really hope I taught you something because I learned a lot myself while making this video. A big thank you to Constant, who helped me a lot with writing this episode. I'm standing in front of this thing. I'm in front of the Wings Pass. Ignition. Starting up, honestly, I feel like right now we're really, for me, behind the wheel of the real PGO, quote-unquote. This is the car that launched the brand, and it's the naturally aspirated car. The first and last naturally aspirated car from PGO. I think that's awesome. I find it super pleasant to drive. The front end is really responsive. It's really enjoyable. So, just to be clear, the goal here isn't to put ourselves in danger or drive at 80 million km/h, but just to see what it's worth, to get a feel for it. I'm really curious. And besides, we've got a beautiful setting too. Just driving like this at 60, what a treat. You can really have fun with this car. The engine performance seems really good. We know this engine anyway. It does well in a front-wheel drive that weighs 1.1 tons. It will obviously do well in a rear-wheel drive car that weighs 950 kilograms. The sound is really good. I'm not sure how much time they spent on it, but it's great. Damn, it grips. Oh wow, it grips. That's so cool. That's so cool. Here, it's a hairpin turn. A 206 gearbox, that works. Obviously, we don't have traction control, we don't have ESP, ABS, I don't even know. I think so, but I'm not sure. Oh crap, I'm already in second gear. Oh wow, this is awesome, huh? I'm not a great driver. I'm too far from my steering wheel. The seats, they're not the most comfortable seats in the world. They don't offer a lot of support, but it's nice. You don't need to drive at 300 to have fun. Also, it's not a car you'd want to push hard. You're in a small GT after all. No, it's great. Honestly, I'm convinced by the car. I'm no race driver and I haven't pushed it, but I'm convinced. I say that like it's mine. Well, it is. I feel comfortable with it. I don't want to roll it, but I feel good. So clearly, it's not the highest performing car in the world. Clearly, for 30,000 euros, you could get a Caterham, you know, if you want something really wild. With 30,000 euros, you could get an RS3 offering high performance and daily comfort. That budget gives you many options. You have some amazing cars like C63S and Porsche Boxsters and a great selection. I'm not going to say that if you have 30,000 euros, you absolutely have to buy one. It's an amazing car. Honestly, I'm so dumb that if right now I had 29,980 euros in my account, I think I would have called and said, don't worry about it, I'll bring it home, just do the paperwork. Because it's really too cool. But honestly, I would totally understand if someone right now voyait un chèque à Loris et voulait l'acheter parce it really looks like a Porsche 356. I've already said it 800 times, but in a car that you can maintain, that you can insure, and that you can drive almost every day or even daily. The car has air conditioning, power steering, and a 206 engine. Nothing beats a 206. It's truly the best of both worlds. A little bit of cosmetics, just to give the 356 some flair, and for me, it's a perfect car. It doesn't do everything. Very well. But damn, the look, you know, it's so charming. Damn! On that note, I'm hurrying up. I've only got 2% battery left. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. I enjoyed making it. If you enjoyed seeing me try out a car that's not one of mine at all, not even in my comfort zone, well, we're not too far from my comfort zone, to be honest. Let me know, tell me in the comments, give a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for a new video. I can't wait to show you this. It's awesome. It's amazing.